Hi and welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is Vince. Thanks for stopping by. You're very welcome here indeed. So I recently read an interesting article about ultra-processed foods in Science Alert that was penned by David Wild. And I thought it would be interesting to turn this into a video, as I know many people do turn to processed foods and indeed ultra-processed foods as a quick, cheap and easy way to eat. However, do we really know how healthy these foods are? And how much nutritional benefit do they really give us? Or, conversely, are they actually extremely detrimental to our health and our well-being? And there are links in the description below to the articles I used to put this presentation together. Ultra-processed foods have been linked to 32 harmful health effects. This according to the largest review of evidence to date. Globally, 1 in 5 deaths are thought to be due to poor diet, and the role of ultra-processed foods has attracted much attention in many of these studies over recent years. Ultra-processed foods were first defined around 15 years ago to allow researchers to investigate the effects of food processing on human health. This new study, called an umbrella review, analysed many recent studies involving almost 10 million people. This being done to bring together much of the available data to give an overall picture of how ultra-processed foods affect our health. The results implicate the consumption of large proportions of ultra-processed foods in a diet with poor health outcomes and early death from a range of conditions, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and poor mental health. Diets containing high proportions of ultra-processed foods are undoubtedly bad for our health. And this new study supports links to a wide variety of age-related diseases. But many questions still remain about the specific mechanisms by which these foods continue to make us extremely ill. Researchers have proposed several mechanisms over the years. These include poor nutritional quality, as some ultra-processed foods can be high in fat, sugar and salt, and low in fibre and deficient in essential vitamins, minerals and antioxidants that our bodies need to thrive. Other mechanisms include a lack of structure and texture, which speeds up eating, increases blood sugar levels and is less effective at reducing our appetite. Much attention has also been focused on food additives and other chemicals, either added to the food during the manufacturing process or as contaminants from packaging or even from the environment. An interesting aspect of the current work is the fact that the strength of the results among the studies was varied, and some of the correlations were in fact very weak. This is probably due in part to the wide range of foods that are contained within the processed foods category. The definition identified foods that may contain additives and chemicals. These foods are intensely processed using refined and reconstituted ingredients, which some consumers may not be familiar with. This covers foods as diverse as ice cream, snacks, wholemeal bread, processed meats, and even low-fat spreads. These are very different foods containing very different ingredients and very different nutrient content, and are probably going to have very different effects on our individual health. Another important factor to consider is that these studies are large, very large indeed. They are population-level studies where thousands of people record their normal dietary intake and also their health status. The analysis also considers and adjusts for various factors such as age, gender and lifestyle that, if not considered, could well skew the figures. However, the results can only show a relationship between dietary intake and our health. They don't provide direct evidence of the mechanisms involved. So new research is urgently needed to understand how and why certain foods can cause ill health and accelerate our journey towards death. Now, although some direct studies are possible, the long-term health effects of, for example, consuming high levels of food additives could be difficult to conduct and ethically questionable. But there is an opportunity here to investigate these effects in more detail using existing data. As more studies are published, the amount of data should allow researchers to focus on different forms of ultra-processed foods to identify the best and also the worst. Given the huge amounts of data in this umbrella review, it will be interesting to extract some more precise data to help identify which of these ultra-processed foods we should avoid and I'm guessing that list is going to be very long indeed. There is a huge range of foods contained within the ultra-processed foods category, with an equally diverse range of nutrient content. Commercial wholemeal bread is classified as an ultra-processed food, as are ice cream, donuts, and fried snacks. So it's highly likely that different ultra-processed foods will have a wide range of negative health effects. Also, mechanistic studies where human subjects are fed specific foods or ingredients in a controlled manner, as well as more detailed statistical analysis of the existing studies, should go a long way to helping. As I say, this should help researchers to identify in the future which ultra-processed foods to avoid. I'm thinking that should be quite a lot, which are safe, probably not so many, and which may even be beneficial as part of a healthy, balanced diet. One thing is certain, these studies should help inform advice about curbing our consumption of ultra-processed foods that are clearly detrimental to our health. Conversely, researchers should also aim to identify what aspects of these foods are the most dangerous, so the food manufacturers can eliminate them from our diets. This has been achieved with some harmful ingredients such as trans fats and some artificial colours, but not that many. Many people rely on commercially processed food products, so governments also need to ensure that in the future these foods are safe and nutritious, particularly for poor and vulnerable groups. I think the author took an interesting stance by saying we need to learn more about ultra-processed foods to find out which of these foods are actually bad for us so they can be avoided. I believe that all ultra-processed foods should come with a severe health warning, even if organisations like the American Heart Association champion them. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, I was in my early 50s when I realised I'd been lied to by organisations like the American Heart Association, who say that ultra-processed foods that were low in fat were actually good for me. Do you still believe that some ultra-processed foods, things that come in tins and packets, can actually be good for you? Or, like me, do you now eat as much whole food as possible and stay away from those foods that come in tins and packets?